We want to graph one complete period of y equals 2 sine of 2x minus pi over 2. All right, a lot going on here, right? But we know that this is just transformations of the graph of y equals sine of x. Okay, y equals sine of x. We can do a quick little sketch here, right? We know that we're going to have this wave-like function. We start at 0, right? This is 1, negative 1. And this point here should be 2 pi. Okay, so we got the amplitude, we got the period here, which is 2 pi, and there's no phase shift, right, because we start at 0. So the idea is, well, how do these numbers affect the shape of the graph? Okay, remember, this is all based on y equals a, the sine of bx minus c, right? And the values of a, b, and c are going to affect the amplitude, period, and the phase shift. Okay. Remember, a is the amplitude, right? So the amplitude is given by a. So in this case, a is equal to 2. Okay, so that's going to change the amplitude, right? The height, how high up this graph goes. Okay, the period, which is given by t, it's 2 pi divided by b. Okay, it's 2 pi divided by b. In this case, b is equal to 2, right? So 2 pi divided by 2 is equal to pi, right? And that's going to be the period of this function. And finally, the phase shift, right? The phase shift is c divided by b. Okay, in this case, c is equal to pi over 2 divided by b, which is 2. So pi over 2 divided by 2 gives us pi over 4. That's going to be the phase shift here. Okay, so we use the values of a, b, and c to determine the amplitude, the period, and the phase shift. Okay, now we should be able to plot this guy. Okay, which one do we do first, though? Okay, well, we always do the phase shift first, right? Phase shift is the horizontal change. Okay, the horizontal shift. Amplitude doesn't really matter, right? That's just going to be the mark that we put up here. So instead of going from negative 1 to 1, we just go from negative 2 to 2. Okay. So a phase shift should always be first. Now this is a pi over 4, right? This is going to be pi over 4 to the right. Okay. So what does that mean? It means that instead of starting at 0, as we normally would, right? We just move to the right pi over 4 units. Okay. And our graph, we'll just draw one complete wave from here, right? We just go from here to here. Okay. Now I'm drawing a little bit more, right? But essentially what we want to do now is find these 5 points. Okay, so this is where the graph begins. We have our maximum, we come back down to 0, we have our minimum, and then we come back to 0 here. This is one complete period. Okay, now of course this is going to be 2 and negative 2, right? That's always the easiest, right? We just change that. Okay. But okay, how are we going to find this point right there, that ending point? Remember, this is not 2 pi, okay? Or it's not even pi, right? The period is pi, right? That's not this point here, okay? Some students make that mistake. They put a pi here to represent that, okay? But remember, the period represents the length. The length from here to here, right? The length is equal to pi, right? So what does that mean? How are we going to find this value here? Well, we just add the period to the starting point, right? So pi over 4 plus pi. Okay. Now we do have fractions. This will be 4 over 4. That becomes 5 pi over 4. That is this point right here. This is the point 5 pi divided by 4. Okay. Now how are we going to find these middle points now? Okay, so that's the question, right? How are we going to find these other middle points? Okay. Well, remember, this is the average of the two endpoints here, right? So we'll take the pi over 4 plus 5 pi over 4 and then divide that by 2. Right? That'll give us the middle point right here. So we'll add pi over 4 plus 5 pi over 4, which gives us 6 pi over 4, right? So that gives us 6 pi over 4, which we can reduce down to 3 pi over 2. But then we divide it by 2. Remember, dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by a half. So multiply this by 1/2, we get 3 pi over 4. Okay. That's how we got this guy, right? We take the two endpoints, add them together, divide it by 2. What about this point? How are we going to get this point here? Same thing. We're going to add pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 4, and then multiply that by a half. Okay, so pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 4. In this case, this turns out pretty nice, right? We get 4 pi over 4, which is just pi, and then we multiply that by a half to get pi over 2. So this is going to be pi over 2. And we do the same thing for this guy, right? It's the average of these 2 points, the middle 2 points here. Okay, so 3 pi over 4 plus 5 pi over 4, which is 8 pi over 4, or just 2 pi, right? And then multiply that by a half, and we actually just get pi here, right? So this point here should be pi, and there we go. This is the graph of one complete period of this function. All right, we shifted to the right, pi over 4 units. It essentially got squished, so the period is pi, not 2 pi, and then we're able to find the remaining points.